Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up the blueprint to, well, probably the most complex piece of hardware you own, your own mind.
That's right.
We are taking a deep dive into something called dream scripting, which is this intentional practice of guiding your subconscious narrative before you even close your eyes.
Exactly. The mission here is to move past that simple idea of, what do my dreams mean?
Yeah.
And get into a more active process.
Right.
We're looking at how this intentional planning, some people call it dream incubation,
Yep.
how it leverages the deepest layers of your mental architecture
And for what purpose?
to accelerate emotional wellness, healing, personal growth. It's really about achieving specific outcomes by directing your mind's own processing power while you sleep.
The source material for this is just fascinating, come from a really multifaceted perspective. The author, Santanu Karmakar, he's a certified counseling psychologist who also works with AI and technology. And on top of that, he's a skilled lucid dreamer.
It's quite the combination.
It is. But what really grounds all this research is his personal story. His deep commitment to dream scripting, it really started in the middle of this profound grief after losing his companion dog of 15 years, Shiro.
So this isn't just theory for him.
Not at all. This is a toolkit he built from the ground up, really for emotional survival.
And that's the perfect foundation for a deep dive like this. He doesn't just jump to the techniques.
No, he builds the case first.
He does. He lays out the fundamental mechanics. So to script a dream successfully, you have to understand three things. First, the layered architecture of the mind.
Okay.
Second, the precise neurological state that actually generates dreams. And then, only then, do you get to the practical steps for influencing that state.
So our goal today is to give you not just the definitions, but the real why and how behind transforming your dream state into this landscape for self-discovery and healing.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack this foundation. If we think of the mind as our operating system, always running processes in the background, it's segmented into these three layers that really determine how we perceive and feel and react to everything.
Exactly. So let's start with the layer that's most familiar to us. The conscious mind.
The one we're using right now.
The one we're using right now. Think of it as your desktop interface. It's the thinker, the logic center, the decision maker. It's what you're using to interpret the sounds you're hearing.
Right. So when you're focused, awake, this part is dominant.
It is. And we see high-frequency beta waves in your brain activity.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the crucial part. The conscious mind is the source of will.
Your ability to make a deliberate choice.
Your ability to make deliberate, intentional choices and, exercise self-control.
So if that's the desktop, what's running just underneath?
That would be the subconscious mind. This is like your immediate cache memory, and it's your emotional reservoir. It stores every memory, every learned habit, all your conditioned responses.
So if you feel a jolt of anxiety in a stressful situation, that's the subconscious.
That's your subconscious running a learned program.
Yeah.
It's based on past experiences, and we can access it when we relax, when we meditate. That correlates with the slower alpha and theta waves.
Okay, and then there's the deepest layer, the one that's hardest to reach, the unconscious mind.
The unconscious is, well, it's the root directory. It's the deep storehouse of our primal instincts, survival programming, and often our most deeply unresolved trauma.
So it's not logical at all.
Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
It operates automatically, instantaneously. The fight or flight response, that instinct to flinch from something hot that's all housed here, and it's linked to the very slowest brain activity, delta waves, which we only really see in the deepest stages of sleep.
And this is where the architecture becomes really practical for scripting, isn't it? This interplay between will from the conscious mind and instinct from the unconscious.
That distinction is absolutely vital. Instinct just. It runs. The moment a trigger is pulled, it's immediate, it's automatic. But will is what allows us to be intentional.
It lets us override that automatic fear response to, chase a long-term goal.
Exactly. And dream scripting, fundamentally, relies on using that intentionality, that conscious will, to craft a message that's specific enough to sink into the emotional reservoir of the subconscious.
So we're not trying to change the root directory, the unconscious.
No, we're trying to update the emotional programming in the subconscious.
Okay, so if will is our tool, how does the state of sleep temporarily disarm our everyday logic to let that will influence these deeper emotional systems?
That's the perfect transition. Waking life is all about objective reality, linear time, logic. Your prefrontal cortex, the brain's CEO, is running the whole show.
Right.
But when we go to sleep, and particularly into REM, sleep rapid eye movement, everything changes.
REM is the sweet spot for this kind of work, right? It usually starts about, what, 70 to 90 minutes after you fall asleep?
It does, but those later, longer periods in the early morning,
Yeah.
that's where the most vivid, accessible dreaming happens.
So what's actually going on in the brain during REM that makes it so potent?
Well, several things are happening at once. It creates this kind of controlled chaos. First, your brain activity, if you measure it, it actually looks like you're awake. It's highly active.
But you're not moving.
Right. That's the second thing, muscle atonia. It's a temporary paralysis. It's basically the brain's safety feature to stop us from, acting out the dream.
And at the same time, the engine driving the dream is just running on emotional overdrive.
Precisely. The limbic system, our emotional center, is hyperactive, especially the amygdala, which processes intense emotions like fear and sadness and joy.
That's why dreams feel so incredibly real.
So real. And your visual cortex is fired up, which gives you the vivid imagery. But, and this is the crucial part, the prefrontal cortex, the home of logic and reason and judgment.
The CEO has gone home.
He has. And that shutdown is exactly what allows for these unconventional breakthroughs. Our waking mind is rigid. It tells us that's a weird idea or you can't do that.
But with that logic filter off.
The subconscious can make connections and process emotions in a way the waking mind would just immediately reject.
So the brain is putting itself through this really dramatic emotional state for a reason. There's a documented purpose.
Two major functions, really. First is emotional processing and healing. Dreams are a safe space, a consequence-free zone to revisit and process suppressed emotions, grief, trauma. Your amygdala and hippocampus are running simulations, basically, to integrate difficult experiences.
And the second one is more about learning and creativity.
Yes, memory consolidation and problem solving. While we sleep, the hippocampus is busy sorting all the day's data, deciding what to keep for long-term memory. And because that logic filter is off, this is where you get these profound, outside-the-box creative insights.
The source material cites some really iconic examples of this, of, genius-level problems being solved in a dream.
The classic one is the German chemist Kekulé. He'd been struggling for years to figure out the structure of benzene. He had a dream of a snake biting its own tail.
A ring.
A ring, which led him immediately to the correct structure of the benzene ring. You've also got Dmitry Mendeleev, who saw the whole periodic table completely organized in a dream.
And there was one about the sewing machine, too.
Elias Howe. He was stuck on the design, and he had this nightmare about being surrounded by cannibals with spears that had holes near the sharp end.
The needle's eye.
The breakthrough. The brain works on problems in a profoundly different, often symbolic way when we sleep.
So all this evidence really establishes the power of the dream state, which brings us directly to the application, dream scripting. It's the practice of consciously designing a really detailed narrative, either writing it out or visualizing it right before sleep to guide the subconscious.
And it's crucial to get the framing right here. We're not talking about absolute control. It's more like building a very specific emotional bridge. You're giving the subconscious a focused assignment, a roadmap, and then letting its own natural healing and creative power run with it.
Okay, so for someone listening who wants to try this for the first time, what are the, say, 4 non-negotiable elements that make a script powerful enough to actually work?
First, clear intention. Generic requests like, I need life advice are, well, they're useless.
Too vague.
Way too vague. The subconscious needs specificity. Something like, I want to visualize a specific career path and feel my confidence about it. That's an instruction it can work with.
Second one has to be the emotional hook.
Right. Emotional engagement is the language of the subconscious. Logic just doesn't stick. Emotion does. Your script has to evoke strong, genuine feelings. Peace, joy, resolution, whatever it is. If it's for grief, the script needs to be laser-focused on a feeling of warmth and acceptance.
And the third element sort of speaks to the vividness of the dream state itself.
That's detailed imagery. Sensory richness is everything. You have to activate the visual cortex. So think about the sights, the sounds, the smells, the textures of the world you want to enter. The more immersive the script is, the more likely the subconscious will adopt it.
And finally,
repetition and consistency. This is training. Doing it once is an experiment. Doing it regularly is programming.
Which brings us right back to the author's own experience with his grief. He created the Shiro script to try and reconcile the loss of his dog.
Right. He scripted this peaceful, loving reunion with Shiro, and he visualized the dog actually transforming into a 12-year-old boy.
Which is very symbolic.
Highly symbolic. It was meant to represent Shiro as a guide, someone offering wisdom, not just a painful memory of a pet.
But this leads to a critical point. The goal was emotional closure. but the result was a blood pressure check. I mean, doesn't that prove the scripting just failed to control the dream?
That is an excellent and a necessary question. But
Oh,
no, it proves the opposite of failure. It shows the deep intelligence of the subconscious.
how so?
Karmakar said the first dreams he had were not the peaceful reunion he wrote. Instead, he got these immediate, vivid health warnings.
Yeah.
He dreamt he was led to a doctor, Dr. Sen, who checked his high blood pressure and heart rate and insisted he needed better rest, a lipid profile check.
So the subconscious vetoed the conscious script.
It prioritized. It basically showed him that he was so physically stressed by his grief that his physical well-being needed immediate attention. Before any deep emotional healing can be safely integrated, it shows the subconscious listens to the intention, but it executes based on the body's greatest need.
That's a powerful idea. The subconscious guides us even when we're trying to guide it. But he did find success with a more complex emotional script, the family reunion.
He did. This script was designed to address this deep-seated guilt he felt about neglecting the memory of his deceased parents. The solution was intentional unification.
So he scripted a dinner scene.
A dinner uniting all his central loved ones. His parents, his wife, his daughter, his two dogs, Shiro and Goldie, and, this is important, his dedicated household caretaker, Bijoy Data.
Why was including him so important?
That specific detail provided what he called a profound sense of completeness. The dream brought together not just family and pets, but the entire support structure of his life. It united all these fragmented parts of his past and present into a single, deeply healing, resolved scene.
So it seems like scripting, when you do it right, lets you ask these very targeted, high-level questions. You can even script a meeting with a guide, like he did with Shiro in human form.
Absolutely. You leverage the subconscious's creativity by posing dilemmas to this dream guide. If you're stuck on a career choice, you can script a pathfinder who shows you two different roads.
And the answers aren't literal.
Almost never. They're usually symbolic or puzzle-like. An image, a feeling, a map. Something that requires you to reflect on it when you wake up. The goal is to link that unconscious solution back to a conscious, actionable choice.
So as we look at next steps, the source suggests that once you master this, scripting can be a springboard for even deeper exploration.
That's the advanced pass, yeah. Scripting is a foundational technique for practices like lucid dreaming.
Being aware that you're dreaming while you're in the dream?
Exactly, and being able to influence it. By scripting specific symbols, say a recurring blue watch, or practicing the feeling of flying, you're planting triggers. When you see that scripted element in the dream, it acts as a reality check, and it hugely increases your chance of becoming lucid.
And once that lucidity is stable, the text mentions even more advanced explorations.
It does. It touches on out-of-body experiences, or OBE, and astral projection, that feeling of your consciousness traveling outside the physical body.
Mm.
These experiences are widely reported to begin from a deep, controlled, lucid state. It just shows how this intentional training can lead to really profound self-explorations.
So what does this all boil down to for someone who wants to apply this? Dream scripting it's not a passive thing. It's a practical, intentional tool. It's designed to harness the mind's natural healing and creative functions while you're asleep. It basically turns your sleep time into productive self-discovery time.
But you have to remember, this is a skill. It requires patience and consistency. It is not a magic solution.
Right.
And to align your conscious will with what your subconscious actually needs, keeping a detailed dream journal is just paramount. You have to look for patterns, see which scripts are sticking and which are being ignored, so you can refine your intentions.
And that distinction between guiding and observing, that's the final powerful idea here. We know guided dreams can heal specific traumas, but this leaves us with a pretty provocative thought that builds on everything we've talked about. How do you, the intentional learner, decide when to actively guide your dreams for a specific scripted outcome versus when to just step back, observe, and allow your dreams to unfold naturally, accepting the raw, unfiltered wisdom your subconscious is offering without any interference?
That's the balance, isn't it? The balance between will and surrender.